Assalamu alaikum. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Thank you so much. Thank you to Powell School District for welcoming me into this space, and to all of you in many ways, border community to another border community. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me here. So for many of you, and I know Brother Dustin didn't say much, about kind of my background, but much of the person that I am today is because I'm the eldest of 14, mashallah. I have 7 younger brothers, 6 younger sisters. And I grew up taking care of people all my life. And I was born and raised in Detroit, working extremely hard at various nonprofit organizations while I was in college, and then went to law school, and then continued to work at nonprofit organizations. When I was growing up, it's interesting. I didn't know I was actually poor. You didn't know. And I also thought, that smell, I was around a lot of pollution. I thought that smell was normal. I actually did. I thought smelling like it's kind of like a rotten egg smell, that I thought it was normal. And so as I got older, understanding the injustices and so forth, I started getting really active. For folks that don't know, both my parents are Palestinians. And my dad only had 4th grade education, my mother only 8th grade education. And I'm the first in my family to graduate from high school, go on to college and law school and so forth. But my dad really got very active when he got part of the UAW, the United Auto Workers. And what I love is, my dad worked at the plant and assembly line. But before that, he was that guy. He was 19 years old when he came to the United States. He was that guy in the corner in the 70s that would put his arms out and say, "Which watch do you want?" He was that guy that hustled. And, when he got the job at Ford Motor Company, it was the first real job where he actually got a paycheck. He never got a paycheck before. But he still was at the assembly line with his arms up, which kind of watch he wanted. So he worked really, really hard. And my mother, as well, being the homemaker, the incredible mom that she was, and she still is. And so, again, that was shaping who I was. And, when you think of Detroit, this is the most beautiful, blackest city in the country. Every corner is a reminder of some social justice movement, maybe labor rights, civil rights, and it shaped who I am. It was the African-American mothers on the block that would tell my mom, who had a heavy accent, raise your voice, when she was kind of whispering because she was so ashamed of her accent. And I remember one time going to Sears, and for the young people, they don't know what that is, but the older people, Sears. I remember being at Sears at a cashier counter with her. I was 12 years old. I was translating for her. And if you're a child of immigrants, you know that feeling when you translate for your mom or your dad. And I was at the counter. My mom goes and gets something, and she wanted to know how much something was. And the cashier is just looking out, and she finally goes, "I don't understand. Why can't she speak English?" And I said, "Well, excuse me, but I'm not translating what you're saying to her. I'm only translating what she wants to say to you. She understands you. But people like you make her feel ashamed that she has an accent because she doesn't speak so-called perfect English, right?" And what I loved about that moment is my mom, because I kind of got, a little sassy with her, and I said, "That's why." And we walk out, and my mother goes, "We can never go back to that Sears again." And as I got older and started working at various human services agencies, I realized this is my calling, public service. And as a Muslimah, I know that we've done so much work in interfaith. We've done so much work in trying to show people, because people assume, oh, she must be anti-this, anti-that. They never think of, when they think of us Muslims, as pro-this, pro-that, right? And as I was, as I got older, started doing work, I felt like I was exposing our faith through action in such a profound way through my public service. I still have residents to this day that come in and say, "Is Rashida really Muslim?" Because they can't believe that I love them and care for them, even if they have never read the Quran before, that I still love them. They don't have to read the Quran to love me. And it's through my action, through my service, to better their lives, to show them love and respect, and show them that they deserve human dignity. And we can do that right here at home in this border community and other border communities. And that's why the work that Dustin and CAIR San Diego is doing, not only with the border church community, but also just trying to uplift the veterans that have been deported, trying to uplift many of those families that very much are the human face of our broken immigration system and why we need real, actual changes to that. And that's how you expose our faith, through in a profound way, through action and through service of others. And, you know, when I first ran for office, people don't know the story, but it took about 7 different people to convince me to run for office. And it was my boss at the time, who was of Jewish faith, Steve Tabachman, who said, you should run for state representative. I said, no way, Steve. That's not going to happen. And he wouldn't quit. Over I don't know how many months, it took about 7 different people to convince me to run. But if it wasn't for Steve Tabachman, and it was great because we were on the front cover of the Detroit News saying, unlikely union makes history. Him of Jewish faith, me of Muslim faith, and we elected the first Muslim woman ever in the Michigan legislature together. And before I ran for United States Congress, I went to Steve. He's still my incredible mentor and partner. And again, this is part of the story that never gets told. I said, Steve, you think so? He goes, yes, let's do this. And you know, people like us never think about running for office. We really don't. We wait until others do. You know, it's the ones that are asleep and they wake up and they say, I want to run for president, I want to run for office. Those are the ones we should be scared of. It's the ones that have to be asked to run, because you can see they love people. They're humanists. Before they're Republicans or Democrats, they're humanists. You can feel it from them. You know, I want social workers to run for office. I want nurses to run for office. I want people that are part of frontline communities running for office. I don't want dynasties. I don't want the same old names recycled over and over again. I want people like us running for office. And I want people like my mom, who's a homemaker, was just raised 14 children. I think she is as qualified as anybody else to serve others through compassion and through, again, wanting to change people's lives for the better. And so, you know, as I was running and before I actually ran, one of my other mentors, I have several, she asked me to run this campaign called Campaign to Take on Hate. Check them out. They're a national campaign that's combating hate and all forms of hate. And I said, no, I'm not sure. You know, racial justice work is so exhausting. You know, I even feel like so exhausted now. I'm constantly trying to combat hate in all forms, because as it's directed to me, I know it's also directed to all of you in this room. And my son, who's 14 now, but at the time he was 9 years old, I was talking to his father about this awful cartoon in USA Today that depicted Muslims as Nazis. It was like a cartoon. It was awful. If you haven't seen it, you got to look at it. It's like a skeleton wearing kind of an outfit, and said Allahu Akbar in Arabic on the side. And I looked at this cartoon. It wasn't words, it's just this cartoon. And I wanted to like throw up. I just thought, my God, when people see this, they're going to want to kill us. And I was telling his father this. My 9-year-old boy comes in, opens the door, comes in. He goes, Mama, don't worry. If anybody asks if I'm Muslim, I will lie and tell them I'm not. Imagine as a mother. I thought to myself, Adam, no. And I cried more, and he's like, but Mama, you know, and he was telling me because he knew I was afraid for him, right? He was protecting me. But that's when I decided I'm going to run the Campaign to Take on Hate. It was a national campaign. We were in about 12 different cities across the country. We were obviously doing interfaith work, but we also were doing what we called direct action, right? Because we didn't want to just talk about Islamophobia or all these kinds of things. We wanted to show how the connection is between movements. This African-American pastor in Detroit, Pastor Bland Jr., said to me, this country's not divided, Rashida. We're just disconnected. What I mean by that is what we see at, you know, communities where you see poverty, how that's interconnected with the immigrant rights movement, how that's interconnected with movements in trying to uplift women out of poverty and getting them equal pay, how that's also connected to what's happening to our black brothers and sisters, black and brown brothers and sisters, mass incarceration, how that's connected to, the detention of our immigrant brothers and sisters. And you can see that if you opened up the curtain, it's the same people that are benefiting and profiting off our broken systems, all the systems, not just immigration. If you open the curtain, it's the same people that every system that is broken, from our education system, people are profiting off of that. Our healthcare system being broken, people are profiting off of that. And it's the same people that are profiting off of all of it. And so Campaign Take on Hate was really driven from trying to do that connectivity that I think is so important. And so as I ran for Congress, as I decided to jump in, and it was a last minute thing, you know, my Congress member was in office for 53 years and he decided to retire. And so we only had really 6 months. And so Steve Tabachman and the whole team we put together, we went out there, and the way we did it is we went door to door. And I know you hear this a lot, but that direct human connection is so underestimated, y'all. Like, I don't know how to explain it. You know, you hear people, they always want to mail something or they want to do a TV ad but the actual direct contact when I was on people's doors was wonderful. Is I wasn't just the Muslim or the Palestinian or the girl that I can't pronounce her name. It was like, oh my God, you actually came to my house and we talked about everything. We talked about like car insurance. We have the highest car insurance rates in my district. We talked about issues around, can you believe that school that's been there for 20-something years closed down? Well, a for-profit charter school opened up down the street. You know, we really talked about those kinds of things. And again, it's that connectivity and in showing people why I cared so much and why I was going to go there. And, you know, one of the things I love about my residents is they know I'm never going to be their polished politician. It's just never going to happen, y'all. Like, it's never going to happen. I'm always going to be raw. Sometimes I'm going to cry. Sometimes I'm going to be angry. Sometimes I'm not going to really express myself the way other maybe elected officials express themselves. But for me and how I'm doing it, one senior citizen said it the best to me. She goes, I feel liberated with you there. I feel like somebody's speaking for me. And I just have to be inspired by that. And I love that so many of my residents, and again, this is the story, the American story that never gets told, is, you know, Sister Ilhan Omar and I got elected by majority non-Muslim communities. Yes. It's literally, her district is 70% white. These are people that don't share her faith, her ethnic background, her race, nothing. For me, majority of my district is African American and white. Less than maybe 5% is actually Arab American, who most likely are Muslim faith. Those are the people that elected a fellow American that is Muslim. They're the ones who made history. And that's part of the American story that I want young people to hear, that never gets shared out there. And it's incredibly beautiful light in this time of darkness in our country, that fellow Americans saw past my faith, my ethnic background, and said, okay, she represents the same values I do. And I trust her to represent me in the United States Congress. The same thing with Sister Ilhan Omar. And again, we expose our faith in such a profound way through our public service, for standing up for housing, the environment, education, poverty, you name it. And, you know, my son, Adam, who's 14 now, he sees me doing what I do every single day. And he is inspired. And he always says to me, Mom, I just don't get it. Why does everybody keep talking about capitalism and socialism? Why not peopleism? And I thought to myself, God, if we can just clear the United States Congress floor and just put children there, I wonder what it would feel like afterwards, honestly, because they come from this place of just purity of understanding that it has to be about humans first, right? It has to be about the human impact. And so I want all of you to know, I know you feel sometimes that we're just constantly being beat down by folks, even including so many, and I want you to know, no matter what's out there, what's in here, all that we can do is outwork the hate and outlove them. And you should see how many times I've talked to people and they don't even know it's me answering the phones, where I talk to them and I say, But really deep down, it's because she's Muslim and you don't understand maybe is that why you're calling and upset? And it's like you don't want her to be angry, meaning me. You don't want her to be sad and crying about the kids at the border. And you don't want her to be joyful for holding the President of the United States accountable. So, what do you want her to do? Just be quiet in the corner and do nothing? Because doing nothing right now in our country is not an option, folks. It really is not an option. And for my parents out there, my mother was one of those. She's very proud of me, but at the same time, she's like, shh, don't be so loud. Get out of his way. She thinks actually that the President of the United States walks in the halls of Congress, that I'm supposed to like somehow duck and hide when I said, Mom, you should not be afraid of the President. He should be afraid of all of us. Really, the people power movement. Because we're going to continue having the truth on our side, that things haven't gotten better, that things have actually gotten worse for a lot of folks, and feeling the sense that we don't belong. It hurts, it's very painful, and that's real. And so we have to be able to challenge that by saying, okay, we're going to run for office, we're going to be engaged, and we're going to go out there and outwork the hate. And that means sometimes voting, showing up to city council and school boards. It means don't wait. And I got to tell you, this Muslima in Flint Mosque raised her hand and she goes, Sister Rashida, I don't understand why not enough people are getting out there and speaking and pushing back on behalf of Muslims. And I said, well, sister, what did you say when he said Mexicans were rapists? Nothing. Don't wait until it's us. Speak up now. Because the worst thing that can happen to fight against white supremacy is when we all start working together. Because that is not the majority of our neighbors across this country. Majority of our neighbors across this country knows that love and humanity is so much more at the center of who we are as a country. And so we have to uplift that by being more engaged on all different fronts of all different movements. I always say this to folks, even when I went to the border and this 4-year-old little child came up to the door, this glass door, and he asked me in Spanish like where his father was. And it's still like, well, the image of this little boy would never ever go away. Is for me, I saw Gaza. I saw what's happening in Yemen, and I'm tired of our community always thinking that it's somehow separate. It's not. Please believe that. We have to be fighting against this form of oppression that is so painful. We can do better than this. And that's why I'm so proud to be going across the border, meeting with veterans that have been deported, talking to communities and especially families and children that have been impacted directly. One of the things that I see over and over again in the United States Congress is we talk about policy so much that we forget the human impact. We forget the human face to a lot of these issues that we're going through. Yeah, we keep talking about healthcare, which right now my residents at home in the 13 District Strong in Detroit and in the neighboring communities, we don't call it healthcare, we call it sick care. We really do. We're tired of people calling it that. We want better. And the way we do that is we may not have the all-time answer of like, should it be Medicare for all, should it be this, should it be that. What we do know is that we can't afford insulin. What we do know is some of us are too poor to get better health-wise. And so all we could do is keep sharing those kinds of stories of the human impact of what these broken systems have meant to so many families. And again, expressing that pain through trying to put a human face to it. But with that, I just want to thank all of you. I know it can be very, very difficult, but I hope you're inspired by this incredible new class of the United States Congress. We're not just diverse in like our ethnic backgrounds, our faith, and all those things, and this incredible array of rainbow of women, but our backgrounds are uniquely different. The majority of my colleagues are millionaires, folks. They're in an income bracket that is so disconnected with the majority of Americans. When the first thing that we ever voted on was to open up government, the federal government, that was the first thing I did. Many of my colleagues, both sides of the aisle, did not understand why federal employees were in the food bank line. I said the majority of Americans live check by check, folks. They do. And what I love about this new class is that there are members of Congress right now, like Sharice Davids, who's the first Native American woman. This is the first time she's got health care. She didn't have health care before she got there. Lauren Underwood from Illinois has a pre-existing condition, who's a nurse. Another woman who lost her mother to breast cancer because of the broken healthcare system. She could not get preventive care. They would have caught it earlier, but they couldn't because she didn't have health care. When I hear the stories of Lucy Macbeth from Georgia, who lost her only son to gun violence, she ran just on that issue. She's a flight attendant with Delta for I don't know how many years. And she decided that's enough. I lost my only baby boy, Jordan, to gun violence. So now all she does is fight for gun reform in our country. Though that's the diversity that has come with this new class, is not just our ethnic backgrounds. It's a woman who's the eldest of 14 who grew up poor in Detroit, to a woman who was a refugee when she came to this country at 8 years old, to so many of the other stories I just told you. That is what makes this class uniquely different, not just because we're the first this, the first that, youngest. It's because of our incredibly challenged backgrounds that brings the empathy and the compassion I think that has been missing, and that connection that has been missing with so many Americans across this country. And so again, I want to thank Dustin and CAIR San Diego for inviting me. I just want you all to know the way you really want to be seen and heard, you have to be able to be in spaces that don't look like you. And I promise you, people will start hearing and listening to you in a different way when you show up for others. Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum.